Economic crashes are as inevitable as the setting sun. They come, they wreak havoc, and they leave lessons in their wake. It's a cyclical dance that every economy, whether big or small, has to perform. A waltz of boom and bust, growth and recession, prosperity and poverty. But why is it so? Why are economic crashes as certain as the tides? Well, it's because economies are dynamic, constantly changing and inherently unpredictable. They are fueled by human behavior, and as we all know, humans can be rather unpredictable creatures. In our exploration, we'll be delving into the three biggest economic crashes in history. We'll unravel the intricate tapestries of these financial disasters, explore their causes and the lessons they left behind. A journey through time, into the heart of economic chaos and the wisdom that emerged from it. So brace yourselves as we dive into the turbulent waters of the three biggest economic crashes our world has ever seen. The year was 1929. The Roaring Twenties had just ended, and little did the world know, it was about to plunge into a decade of despair. The scene begins with the Wall Street crash in October 1929. A time of opulence and excess had led to a bubble in the stock market that was destined to burst. Millions of shares were traded and the losses were astronomical. The crash wasn't the sole cause of the Great Depression, but it was the trigger that set off a chain of events, leading to the worst economic downturn in history. After the crash, bank failures followed. Banks had also invested heavily in the stock market. When it crashed, they lost all their money and had to close. This led to a domino effect. As banks went under, they took people's savings with them. Suddenly, people had lost not only their confidence, but their means to spend and invest. But the plot thickens. The reduction in purchasing across the board was another significant factor. With people losing their savings and their confidence, they simply stopped buying things. Demand plummeted, businesses started failing, and unemployment soared. It was a vicious cycle, a whirlwind of economic despair. The Great Depression wasn't just an American affair, its impact was global. Across the pond, Europe was still recovering from the First World War, and the US crash sent them spiraling down as well. From Asia to Africa, no corner of the world was untouched. The Depression lasted a staggering 10 years. From 1929 to the end of the 1930s, it was a decade that saw breadlines and soup kitchens become the norm, a decade when dreams were deferred and hopes were lost. And the lesson from this? When the party gets too wild, the hangover is bound to be severe. So, remember, while the champagne is flowing and the stock market is growing, it's essential to keep our feet firmly on the ground. Because as history has shown us, what goes up must come down, and sometimes it comes down hard. Fast forward to 1973. The world was about to learn a valuable lesson about dependency. In the early 70s, the global economy was humming along, powered largely by oil. The world was drunk on black gold, and why wouldn't it be? It was cheap, plentiful, and powered everything from cars to power plants. But then something happened that would change everything. In the autumn of 1973, the members of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC, decided to use their oil as a political weapon. They imposed an oil embargo against the United States and its allies for their support of Israel during the Yom Kippur War. Almost overnight, the price of oil quadrupled, sending shockwaves through economies around the globe. The embargo exposed a crucial vulnerability in the world's economy. Countries that had become heavily dependent on oil were suddenly faced with severe shortages. This led to skyrocketing prices not just for gasoline, but for a wide range of goods and services. Everything that relied on oil, from transportation to manufacturing, became more expensive. The economies of the United States and other Western countries were hit hard. Inflation soared to unprecedented levels, eroding purchasing power and living standards. At the same time, businesses struggling with higher costs began laying off workers. Unemployment rates climbed to heights not seen since the Great Depression. The oil embargo lasted only a few months, but its effects lingered for years. The world had been given a harsh lesson in the dangers of over-reliance on a single resource. It sparked a newfound interest in energy conservation and alternative sources, but the damage had been done. In the end, the 1973 oil crisis was a wake-up call. It showed the world that while oil could fuel economic growth, it could also bring economies to their knees if mismanaged or used as a weapon. So, the lesson this time? Never put all your eggs in one basket, especially if that basket is filled with oil. The year 2008, a year that would go down in history as the start of the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Imagine a bubble. It's growing, expanding beyond its natural limits. This was the US housing market in the early 2000s. Prices soared, loans were dished out like candy, and everyone thought they could get rich quick. But bubbles, my friends, are not eternal. In 2008, the bubble burst, and it was a loud pop heard around the world. The housing market didn't just stumble, it crashed, dragging along with it big banks, financial institutions and economies worldwide. It was a domino effect, a cascade of crashes that left no corner of the globe untouched. But it wasn't just a story of numbers and markets. It was about people, their homes and their life savings. Millions lost their jobs, their homes and their financial security. It was a stark reminder that when Wall Street sneezes, the world catches a cold. So what lessons did we glean from this disaster? First, that unchecked speculation and risky financial behavior can lead to catastrophic consequences. Second, that a seemingly distant and complex financial market can and does impact our everyday lives. And third, that economic bubbles, despite their shiny allure, are not sustainable. And what did we learn from this? Greed, my friends, is definitely not good. So there you have it, the three most significant economic crashes in history. We journeyed from the Great Depression's devastating blow to the oil crisis of the 70s and landed in the global financial crisis of 2008. Each one, a stark lesson of overreach, lack of foresight, and the domino effect of unchecked greed. Remember, history repeats itself, but the wise learn from it. Stay informed, stay prepared, and until next time, keep the economy in check. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a moment to thank you all for journeying with us through these turbulent economic times. Your engagement and feedback are what keep us motivated to create more content like this. If you found value in this crash course, we encourage you to hit the like button and leave us a comment below. Which economic event intrigued you the most? Is there another economic crash you'd like us to dissect? We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to stay updated on our latest videos. We have a whole lot more on the horizon and we can't wait to share it with you. Remember, knowledge is power. The more informed you are, the better prepared you'll be should history attempt to repeat itself. So until next time, stay informed, keep learning, and let's continue to keep the economy in check together. See you soon.